They don't use that, though, to torture Ford and Arthur. Well, torture's a strong word concerning Arthur. He seems more confused, and honestly I like that reaction since Earth's culture was the one that produced the worst example of poetry. But only Stephen Fry knows that.
Vogon poetry is widely accepted as the third worst in the universe. The second worst is that of the Asgoths of Krea. During a recitation by their poet master, Grunthos the Flatulent, of his poem Ode to a Small Lump of Green Putty I Found in My Armpit One Midsummer Morning, 4 of his audience died of internal hemorrhaging, and the president of the Mid-Galactic Arts Nobbling Council survived by gnawing one of his own legs off. The absolute worst poetry was written by Paul and Nancy Millstone Jennings of Sussex. Luckily it was destroyed when the Earth was.
So technically Vogon poetry is the second worst, since no one knows about the true worst, which was written right before Earth was destroyed and wasn't published or known. How does the guy know? Answer: don't question Stephen Fry.
Oh, trust me. Wherever there are librarians, someone remembers.
Even if those who remembered were dead in an instant?
Yes.
A lesson from Ghostbusters. Never mess with librarians. Even death cannot stop them.
Damn Skippy. Anyhow, Arthur tries to fast-talk his way into clemency from the Vogons, which goes over like a deviled egg fart in a fire temple, leading to the pair being shoved into an airlock and jettisoned into deep space to die. They are, however, rescued in the nick of time by a yard sale. Wait, no, that's just the Heart of Gold materializing, and thanks to being a film bankrolled by the evil rodent Vanaheim, they make the effect freaking work, including the fact that Ford and Arthur are now a very tasteful set of couches. It doesn't last, but it's some nice puppetry.
Ford didn't turn into a penguin.
Oh, so when I say it's cute, it's irrelevant. But when Little Miss Chaotic Neutral says it...
In the novel and the television series, Ford turned into a perfectly safe penguin, and Arthur's limbs began to rapidly disappear while returning to normality. While the couches are still in the spirit of the idea, nothing quite beats the line of, "The point is that I am now a perfectly safe penguin, and my colleague here is rapidly running out of limbs."
Penguin? What's this about a penguin? I want a penguin, goddammit!
I think the third thing we can all agree on is that the effects crew are really earning their pay, though, right? Great opening theme. Zooey Deschanel is a bad choice. Great FX. Yes?
Yes, but I still want a talking penguin in this movie.
Yeah, okay. A penguin would have been cute.
Damn, I'm never gonna get that $40.
The TV version poisoned the well for the penguin gag. Sorry. That's what happens when you're trying for an original series Star Trek sight gag on an original series Doctor Who budget.
But you were still a penguin.
Aw, honey. You're so cute, you beat every penguin in the industry.
I'm kinda drunk.
Yeah, real professional job, I ask you. Wait a minute. How'd you manage to come up with all that stuff about the movie while drunk?
'Cause I am a fucking genius.
Do you think she'll share the booze if I ask? I've been out since this morning.
They've got even better stuff coming up.
When did you last saw it?
When it came out originally, and not since. Oh god, there's even more bad stuff up ahead that I managed to black out, isn't there?
Oh, just wait. They'll fuck it up and make it up soon.
Smooth.
We finally meet Zach Ford Beeblebrox properly, and like everything else in life, I'll let the TV do the talking.
And once again, our top story. The sensational theft of the most coveted ship in the universe, the Starship Heart of Gold. Stolen at the launch ceremony by none other than Galactic President Seyford Beeblebrox.
In the name of people and freedom and democracy, stuff like that, I hereby kidnap myself, and I'm taking the ship with me. Woo! Come on!
Beeblebrox, Universally considered to be the dimmest star in several solar systems, is most famous for his controversial defeat of Hamakavula, who claimed many thought they were voting for the worst dressed sentient being in the universe contest. Hamakavula is of course best remembered for his slanderous "Don't Vote for Stupid" campaign.
Zayfod's just this guy, you know?
Wait, does this mean that Trillian has 6 more evil exes that Arthur's gonna have to fight?
That movie was made 5 years later. This movie stealing that joke is impossible.
No, just very improbable.
Get out.
Anyway, I honestly think Zaphod Beeblebrox is a better president than his opponent made up for this movie, and is actually doing his job.
I mean, I guess he's only adult compared to other politicians, but where's the logic?
I would vote for Zaphod Beeblebrox 10 times over Cheeto Jesus.
No, she's right. Douglas Adams wrote that the purpose of the presidency is not to wield power, but rather to distract attention away from those who actually do. Zaphod's ridiculous antics completely distract the galaxy from the real ruler of the universe, an old man living in isolation in a shack with his cat named the Lord. The ruler of the universe doesn't believe anything truly exists, literally has no belief, and has a very foggy view of the past. So he has the most objective point of view and just tells the executive types how he feels without consequences. So yeah, distracting the galaxy with pizzazz away from the confused hermit. Without knowing he is.
While they did maintain Zaphod's purpose, I'm not fond of Sam Rockwell's performance or how they wrote Zaphod.
I have to argue that this is one of the things that the movie got better than the previous versions.
That's fine. What I'm not okay with is how he's even more of a douche to Trillian. They had a relationship for who knows how long within the novel series, mainly sexual according to the official guides of the franchise, but they clearly made it work. Here though, for Rockwell's performance and the writing, he's neglectful to her, and it's obvious that was only done so everyone would cheer her on when she dumps him and goes to Arthur instead, fulfilling her purpose as the protagonist's designated romantic interest, even though that wasn't her purpose in the rest of the franchise, and she was her own character. That's one of the problems with this film. You can see the strings.
Aside from them trying to shoehorn a generic Hollywood romantic love triangle into here, this is all totally consistent with previous versions of the story. In the radio version, Trillian leaves Zaphod because she finds out he did something absolutely heinous. In the book version, Zaphod's so busy sulking that he's not paying any attention to her. In the movie version, he's just trying to prevent Trillian from finding out that maybe there's a reason why Arthur was floating in the void. And the entirety of him threatening Arthur is just to keep him from telling Trillian what happened.
I never said the relationship was perfect or going to last forever. It did end. I even said the relationship was mainly sexual. It wasn't going to last. But not so soon, and she didn't move on to Arthur. If we consider the 6th book canon, technically Wildbanger was her next boyfriend. Yes, Arthur and Trillian did have a kid together, but Arthur was just a sperm donor because he was the only other human. He was never her boyfriend. That doesn't mean they should be together. But it was obvious Rockwell portrayed Zaphod as really neglectful just so Trillian would dump him sooner, and because she's a girl has to be with protagonist. Zaphod isn't the best boyfriend, but you did see a little hint of feelings for Trillian. In the movie, none. To him, she's just an accessory.
That's the thing, though. Zaphod's defining character trait, no matter what iteration of the story we're talking about, is that everything's about Zaphod. He doesn't love Trillian, he just likes the fact that she makes him feel good about himself. And he doesn't view Arthur as a romantic rival, he views him as a threat to Trillian continuing to do that.
So she should have ended up with Arthur?
Oh, hell no. Arthur's not right for her any more than Zaphod was.
Honestly, no one in this series is even remotely prepared to be in a relationship with anyone, especially not Zaphod, Trillian, or Arthur. Except for Ford and a stiff drink.
Let's agree this is mainly Zoe's and the writer's fault than Rockwell's. Clearly this Trillian was expecting a committed relationship a la Zaphod fucking Beeblebrox, and that portrayal of her made Zaphod seem worse since it made the audience sympathize with Trillian Arthur. Agreed?
Oh, totally. Agreed.
Agreed.
What?
No. Zoe had nothing to do with this. Come on, guys. Do reviewers always have to blame somebody?
Yes! Yeah.
I had to ask.
Next, we meet Marvin, the paranoid android, aka the one who's always depressed, so not exactly paranoid.
I hate this design. The one from the original show fit better. Marvin was supposed to have been made by designers to make him your plastic pal who's fun to be with. But naturally, he's not at all fun to be with because of the paranoid depression thing. This one is too Funko Pop-like. He doesn't look like he was designed for fun. He looked like he was designed to be hip and modern, like the new Stormtroopers.
Yeah, I agree. This Marvin looks too cute, too clean, too marketable. In fact, that's probably what this Marvin was designed to be, a marketable design for toys. This is the Marvin most people think of when they're reminded of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is a shame. Whenever I think of Marvin, I usually think of a design similar to Crotty Robot, since the company that made him are very bad at their jobs and end up making him look fairly rough. Here, he looks like a giant baby with an enormous ball of a head that I'm surprised hasn't caused him to fall over yet.
He looks like the world's most depressed Apple product.
Dude! I thought you were on my side!
I still like the movie despite its flaws, it's just that the flaws are starting to get on my last nerve. Like how they took Brain the Size of a Planet literally here.
I think he's adorable. The sleek design looks different and alien. It's not graceful, and the way it moves and poses adds to the lines where he expresses how utterly miserable he is. I want to hug him. That made him less obnoxious than he could have been to me.
Still can't help but think if a robot of that design existed, it would move like this. Total surprise!
That's a terrible surprise.
You leave my iMoy blob alone!
Don't blame me, blame gravity. We do finally get to see all the characters meet each other, and there's two things wrong with it. One.
Arthur, this is Zaphod Beeblebrox, president of the galaxy. He's my cousin. He's a semi-half-brother.
Brothers? You can't even get the absurd joke of them being semi-cousins right. Secondly, Trillian Arthur. So much forced awkwardness between them. Awkwardness does not equal romantic chemistry. It just equals more awkwardness. Do they have to treat their last encounter like Trillian was the one to Arthur? She was, at the time, just someone he failed to flirt with, and then he moved on to his ridiculously mundane life.
In the book, they did harp on their encounter in the flat in Islington, but not because they were supposed to be destined or anything. It was just to set up the plot point of Arthur and Trillian knowing each other. That's it. And to give Arthur an antagonistic relationship with Zaphod.
Truly an argument for polyamory. All of this could be solved if Trillian could just date them both. But no! If a man really loves a woman, he has to be jealous! Son of a gun, this movie actually made me mad.
Somehow your argument for polyamory made this review suitable to be right before my review of an Archie adaptation.
Also, one of us. One of us.
Mike, I will set you ablaze.
So after we're shown why the film was in development hell for so long by demonstrating how Vogon bureaucracy works, we get more Trillian and Arthur awkwardness. Along with Trillian being a starry-eyed manic pixie space girl. Oh joy.
Okay, look. Do you see this? This detects what you're craving and makes it for you. Do you see this? This toasts bread while you're slicing it. We're on a spaceship, Arthur. In space.
Man, Sky Mall in space is so much cooler.
It's alright, let it out.
That technology actually works?
Can you elaborate? I'm barely holding the pretense of my extended cameo together here.
In the universe of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not a lot of technology works because most of it was manufactured by the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation, aka the worst mass-produced technology company in the known universe. They're why Marvin is depressed and why the ship's AI is so overtly happy. They tried to make artificial sapients with genuine people personality, but the robots can only excessively feel one emotion. It's why Arthur can't get tea. The machines literally can't make real good tea. That's the whole point of the joke. That the sci-fi world outside of Earth that we expected to be so advanced can't get technology right. Having trillion glorified technology that actually works ruined the whole joke.
It's true, Sirius Cybernetics has a complaints department that takes up 3 whole planets, and is the only part of the company that actually makes a decent profit, even after the company's economic implosion. Clearly they must be doing everything wrong if that's happening. This is treating Sirius Cybernetics like it's GM and designed for dreaming.
And the joke really only works when it is the latest in a series of things that didn't work right, as opposed to when the only reason it's not working is because the writers took it out of the original source, like the comedic version of Microsoft's legacy code.
Again, whose side are you on?
I just really hate Microsoft. Long story.
So we're just going to ignore the blatant infringement of a certain sci-fi weapon?
Fine. Let's do the obvious.
I think George Lucas gonna sue somebody.
Next we have Zaphod playing the video that explains why he had half his brain removed and shoved into a second head. It all has to do with the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
I've seen it. It's rubbish.
Aside from them taking Deep Thought's design too literally, I have to disagree with Marvin on this. They do a reasonably decent job taking a scene that's really just 2 kids and a computer talking to each other, and they give it just enough things going on in the background to keep it from being painfully static. The kids ask Deep Thought for the answer, tells them it's going to take 7.5 million years to figure it out, and then they return at the requested time to be told that the answer is 42. They try to call bullshit on this, but Deep Thought points out that they really should have figured out what the question was first, and in the grand tradition of contractors everywhere, it passes the buck by saying they'll need another computer to tell them what that is.
While I'm not fond of Deep Thought's literal design and how it's a lot smaller than its actual size, a small city, I'm not going to complain about that.
Balloon juice. If you're breathing, you're complaining.
My problem is more to do with Zaphod. The fact that he actually wants to find deep thought and the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. Remember everything we said about Zaphod Beeblebrox being the most egotistical person in existence? In the second book, he was put into the total perspective vortex, a torture device that can eliminate your soul by forcing you to see how small you are in the universe. But at the time, Zaphod was in a virtual universe in which he believed he was the most important being in the universe, so the device didn't work on him. Would he, of all people, want to find out the meaning of life? I get that he's trying to find out the question to gain fame and fortune. But is Zaphod really the kind of person who would want to gain all that stuff through something related to philosophy, something related to the meaning of life, something he wouldn't consider to be valuable or important because to him the answer is obvious? Him? The guy who won't care because he undoubtedly believes he's just as important as the universe? If anything, he would go directly to the legendary planet that makes planets to directly obtain the fame of finding it and the fortune of particular planets like the one made of fucking gold. He would want physical things rather than answers that he thinks everyone should know.
Movie Zaphod just wants to puff up his ego and get rich, and he can do both by being the guy who delivers the ultimate answer. Are his motivations as good as they were in the other versions? Not really, but at least they are consistent within the framework that the writers created.
But the fact fact that we clearly distinguish Zaphod from the movie version shows they have written Zaphod in a different way. Plus, the framework of the movie isn't good at all. The original franchises were simple. Earth to space to legendary planets. In the movie, they're all over the place. The planet that makes planets is a good enough reason for the characters to go there. They don't need to connect deep thought to that planet just so it could be a useless MacGuffin. They could have saved everything about deep thought for the big reveal.
Vote movie Beeblebrox. He's always a jerk, so you always know what you're getting.
Although the answer and the question probably isn't that valuable or dramatic in general anyway, considering what deep thought meant by 42. In Japanese, 42 is pronounced as shin-nin, which translated means 42. Shin-nin together means to die in Japanese. So, the meaning of life is death. We are born to die. Everything in between is meaningless, which makes sense since Douglas Adams was an atheist. He doesn't believe life and the universe had purpose or meaning. Then again, Adams did say it was just a joke, so maybe I'm dissecting a proverbial frog.
You might have a point, or you might pull something with all that reaching.
I'm surrounded by dorks.
So with everyone where they need to be, the very forced British-looking teapot heart of gold uses the improbability drive to head off to Magrathea. Oh, come on!
I'm sorry to disappoint you, gang, but this is not Magrathea. We are currently in orbit around the planet Blipball 6.
See what I mean when I say the story's all over the place?
Literally. It's bouncing around like a kitten on meth.
And it doesn't make sense based on what we know about the infinite improbability drive.
Alright, well, what do we know about it?
Glad you asked.
Ah, yes, the infinite improbability drive. And who better to explain this wondrous marvel of technology and science than Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terawatt. Now, the principle of generating small amounts of finite improbability by simply hooking the logic circuits of a Brambleweenie 57-stop Mason brain to an atomic vector plotter suspended in a strong Brownian motion producer, say a nice hot cup of tea, were of course well understood. And such generators were often used to break the ice at parties by making all of the molecules in the hostess's undergarments leap simultaneously 1 foot to the left, in accordance with the theory of indeterminacy. Many respectable physicists said that they weren't going to stand for this, of course, partly because it was a debasement of science, but mostly because they didn't get invited to those sorts of parties. Another thing that they couldn't stand was the perpetual failure they encountered while trying to construct a machine that could generate the infinite improbability field needed to flip a spaceship across the mind-paralyzing distances between the farthest stars, and at the end of the day, they grumpily announced that such a machine was virtually impossible. Then, one day, a student who had been left to sweep off after a particularly unsuccessful party found himself reasoning in this way. If, he thought to himself, such a machine is a virtual impossibility, then it must have finite improbability. So all he would have to do in order to make one is to work out exactly how improbable it is, feed that figure into the finite improbability generator, give it a fresh cup of really hot tea, and turn it on. He did this and was rather startled when he managed to create the long-sought-after golden improbability generator. He was even more startled when just after he was awarded the Galactic Institute's prize for extreme cleverness, he was lynched by a rampaging mob of respectable physicists who had realized that the one thing they couldn't stand was a smartass. Now, how it works is, as soon as the ship's drive reaches infinite improbability, it passes through every conceivable point in every conceivable universe simultaneously. This is, of course, for you aspiring evil geniuses, known as ninth dimensional travel. And that gets into a whole other conversation that I'm not going to get into because I feel like I could be here all day, and I'm going to let you get back to your thing. Okay.
Dude, I said no cameos.
But it was informative. Besides, Toby asked.
It does contain my point, though. If the improbability drive is activated and literally warps reality to alter probability to get where it needs to go, it will go there. That's why something changes after it's activated. The same probability of going to, say, Planet Dracula instantly will be the same probability of everyone's hats turning into cheese. It's all about the right numbers and calculations. Technology may be faulty in that universe, but mass isn't. It won't get sidetracked and end up somewhere else that's not the exact chosen location. And we know why this happened. It's so the writers can get the characters to the quote-unquote villain who would send them after the Deus Ex Machina.
In all fairness, it's so they could take one of the gags from the original story. They take it out behind the soundstage and beat it to death, but still.
With that massive contrivance aside, the characters arrive on Vitvodul 6 to see Zaphod's former election opponent, Hamar Kavula, religious leader of the Katravatids. But of course, since this film wants us to think that Hamar Kavula is the bad guy, the film implies they're an evil cult, even though they haven't really tried to force any of their beliefs down anyone's throats. In fact, they nicely treated the characters as visitors.
I swear, you're just using a jumble to make up words now.
I probably wouldn't mind this part so much if they had had any actual Jartravardids in the church, or at least if they had made Pope Malkovich one.
Well, if the film's too embarrassed to show that Zaphod has 2 heads more often, they're probably too embarrassed to give us a good look at aliens with 50 arms. Even though they showed plenty of distinctive alien rejects of Mystery Science Theater 3000 on Viltvodal 6 anyway.
Setting this bit on the Jartravardid home planet, but refusing to give us any Jartravardids, except for that one they keep in shadow, just so they can give us a standard Hollywood religious fanatic character, is lazy. If they had to go that route, they could have made any silly fake religion for this, and it would have been far less annoying than misusing one of the things they copied and pasted in from the previous versions.
And how they handle them is just the icing on the cake of everything wrong with the scenes on Vitvodal 6. Hamar Kavula as a villain. He looks the part, sounds the part, moves the part. He's a villain, but not an antagonist. He's only a villain in the most superficial way possible. Not all villains are antagonists, but all antagonists are villains. A villain is supposed to either be an obstacle or use the characters to get what he wants. Kavula technically does the latter.
No, you don't get something for nothing, Zaphod. You must bring me something in return.
What?
A gun.
A gun?
A very special gun designed by the greatest computer ever invented. But the only way to find it is to go to Magrathea.
But that part has never been resolved. So within this film, all he did was send the characters after the Deus Ex Machina gun. He's pointless. He's literally a pit stop.
I think I heard somewhere that this hummus guy was one of Adam's ideas. So if it's one of his ideas, why be nerd ragey about it?
Yes, but he was merely an idea. I really doubt this execution of him is what Adams would have wanted.
Honestly, as a villain, he doesn't really work, because this series doesn't really have villains. Aside from the Vogons, and they're really only villains in the loosest sense. They don't have a grudge against Earth, they just follow the paperwork. Kavula is a crap villain in general, since as his arc is never resolved, he's just this guy, you know? This guy who shows up, halts the main plot, and never does anything remotely villainous.
But since this is Hollywood we're talking about, they would likely want to include a villain other than a mindless bureaucracy. And I'm fine with that. It's just the choice of the villain I'm not keen on. They should have used a character who could be a potentially good antagonist. Like Gag Alfront, the universe's most famous psychiatrist who sent the Vogons to destroy Earth and Earth's replacement in the first place so the meaning of everything would be answered and end his business. When he was first mentioned in the second book, I honestly thought Adams was setting him up to be the antagonist. He would be a much better villain than the leader of a minor joke about religion revolving around snot.
Also, isn't it obvious that they're trying to set up Kavula to be the villain of the sequel, under the assumption they're going to get one? Writing him into this and then having him send Zaphod on a fetch quest for the MacGuffin gun, blatant sequel baiting.
But there really isn't a villain in the second book. Unless you count Xanawu.
So them not getting a sequel is a kindness, really, because this way we don't have to find out how they would have shoehorned Kavula into it.
Greetings, gentle viewers of someone else's show, because I'm doing a cameo. Hello! Do you know who's shit? Hamaka-fucking-Vala from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie. But it works! Because it's a theme! It's shit, John Malkovich is shit, Hamaka-Vala is shit. It's like they planned that out. This film thinks that sawing off someone's second head is somehow impressive or frightening or anything good, really. I mean, I don't know if you've ever come across second heads, but quite a lot of guys have them between their legs for some reason. And removing them's not that hard. You don't even need a saw. Some of them you barely need a C. Anyway, in short, Hamakavala is shit. And I'm going to watch Message from Space.
Ooh. Anyone else feel like chill?
I've seen weirder.
Look, forget about Hagen's scariness. She does have a point. Cutting out Zaphod's head halfway through the movie? Are you fucking serious? You're pretty much cutting off one of your few ties to the potential sequel, since that head more than likely has the details of Zarnewhoop and himself collaborating to find the true ruler of the universe, the main driving point of the second narrative.
See? This just gives us more reasons to expect that Kavula was going to be the villain in the second movie. Of course he's going to take a hostage to send them off on the fetch quest for the MacGuffin gun. And really, there were only two choices here, either Zaphod's second head or Trillion. And Pope Malkovich is smart enough that he would know that the only hostage that Zaphod's going to care enough about to come back for is Zaphod's second head.
But then the sequel will be even more jumping all over the place with Kavula shoved in. And since we don't have the sequel, this is all we have. So all he's doing is taking the head for shits and giggles and sending the characters after that damn gun. Sure, it's more than likely he's going to use that gun to ensure everyone believes what he believes, but that's never resolved, and I really don't think that religion cares about enforcing their beliefs. They seem to be fine being what they are and letting people choose for themselves. Plus, that's not how the gun works. Everyone wouldn't be sharing his beliefs, but his true intentions as well. His plan would be ruined. In other words, he's pointless, the scene is pointless, and getting rid of Zaphod's second head is so fucking pointless.
Well, they probably did it to not have to do the effect for the rest of the movie. Not that we see a second head or third arm that much in the film up to this point anyway. Honestly, while the television show's second head was goofy, at least it made sense. How does a second head where the neck and chest is even work? I mean, sequel bait or not, there was no reason to remove the head. If they didn't want to do the effect, they shouldn't have adapted a book with a two-headed character. It's like if in The Lightning Thief they decided to give Grover human legs halfway through because satyr legs were too hard in effect.
Jane, I've noticed you've been awfully quiet about this. What did you think of Kavula? Or are we right and Kavula's a crappy character?
At least the eye effect is cool. Though those spider legs offend my dark elven sensibilities. Spiders are friends, not fiends.
So these coordinates, isn't that why they are on the planet? Does that mean this scene isn't pointless?
Even an infinite improbability drive requires coordinates, which I happen to have.
Oh, that.
It should have been the calculations or the probabilities instead, but I've already done the lack of consistency rant about the fucking express lane thing.
And really, coordinates for a legendary planet no one has seen for years, specifically for a ship that has just been built. Yeah, this whole scene is bullcrap.
And speaking of pointless bullcrap, this is when they revealed that the real reason for this pointless diversion was to set up the next pointless diversion. Oh, for fuck's sake, movie, that was a joke, not a suggestion!
And now the once capable and intelligent Trillion Astra is a damsel in distress. I can't take this. I'm getting more goggle blaster.
Jane?
Maybe they cut a scene where she fights.
Let's face it, Jane. She's become a manic pixie hostage girl.
Son of a biscuit eater, Zoe! I trusted you!
The one thing the writers were consistent about was their complete inability to write Trillion well.
Well, what else can they do with her? She has a vagina and therefore has to be the MacGuffin rather than an actual person, or some executive bullshit like that. So rather than defying sci-fi cliches, they follow them completely and head to Volksphere to heroically rescue Trillian. Ugh, that whole sentence makes my head hurt. I swear, how the hell is a franchise first made in the 70s more progressive than its feature film adaptation from 2005?
To piss critics and fans off until they literally explode from rage?
Yeah, I believe that. Anyway, they arrive on Volksphere, which turns out to be Sideshow Bob's worst nightmare.
If they have an idea, they get hit in the face? It's like a metaphor for this movie's writer's room.
Actually, there's supposed to be a parody of the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. They force you to evolve by making you just do things rather than just sit around thinking and not doing anything. It's why the Vogons are the way they are, flat noses and only able to do things mindlessly rather than think. Though that's not quite as clever or subtle as it sounds. Probably the replacement writer's idea.
Actually, it was Adams.
Oh. Can I just have one favorite author who doesn't do stupid things?
Meanwhile, the damsel in distress herself is getting arrested in the way the ultra-bureaucratic Vogons would arrest someone, which leads her to discovering that Earth was blown up by the Vogons, and it was Zaphod who signed the order.
Dramatic reverse.
No. Do not bum this. This is just stupid.
I'd have to argue that this is one of the decisions that the writers got right, if only because Trillian was going to have to find out by the end of the movie anyway, and this stops them from having to come up with more ways for Zaphod to distract her from it. And having Zaphod sign a planetary death warrant love and kisses because he thinks somebody asked for his autograph is totally in character for him, no matter what iteration of the story we're talking about. Also, this didn't come out of nowhere, they did it in the radio version too.
But in that version, it was done to show some character development and emotion from Trillian. Here, it's clearly taken advantage of in order to make Zaphod dumpable and almost send her over to Arthur before it creates the contrived "you lied to me" conflict between them that will obviously get solved by the final act through true love. This isn't character development. It's making her a tug-of-war toy.
I think a big detriment to this scene is Zooey Deschanel. While she's an alright actress, she doesn't exactly emote here. Her reaction is more like,
"Dull surprise!"
I mean, if I had just found out that not only was my home planet destroyed, but the order was signed by someone who I thought was my friend, I'd be distraught and mighty pissed off. But Trillian never really looks like that in this scene. If she emoted at all and looked sad and angry, at least that could relay some manner of character development of her realizing that Zaphod's the biggest idiot in the galaxy. But without emotion, it feels empty. Not to mention that the whole "you lied to me" thing is ridiculous on its own. Two-headed president alien tells me to keep my mouth shut. My mouth is shut. I don't care if it is something vitally important.
Oh my God, St. Arvindor. I'm not done defending this pile of crap, but why am I defending this pile of crap?
Equal parts nostalgia and bloody-mindedness?
Marvin?
The overwhelming power of Stephen Fry's voice?
Yeah.
So our heroes, using the term loosely here, try the barge in and save Trillian, but get caught up by the Vogons' bureaucracy, stuck in line with rejected Futurama characters and fan service cameos.
Oh hey, it's old Marvin! Maybe they can swap on the way out?
The crazy thing is, this sequence actually works. It takes the concept of the Vogons' mindless adherence to bureaucracy and it goes to 11 with it. The problem is that it works so well that it just makes the failures, like their total inability to write anything good for Trillian, all the more aggravating. Who wrote this part and why didn't they let them near the rest of the movie?
Still the same guys.
Seriously? Damn, that makes the bad parts even more disappointing.
The characters soon enough realize they'll be in a line run by the extremely bureaucratic Vogons, so they offer the suggestion that Zaphod could use his authority and fame as president to get in front and...
Presidents don't have power. Their job is to draw attention away from it. Man, no offense. I mean, you're a great guy.
Ford, you shouldn't even know this. The galactic president's true purpose and their connection to the true ruler of the universe, hell, the mere existence of the ruler of the universe, is secret. Like we said, the guy who rewrote the script after Adam's death seems to think the narration and the guide, Hence the writer of the guide, Ford, know the same thing and therefore know everything, which ruins some potential revelations if Ford knows everything. He knows a lot, but he doesn't know that much.
So of course Zaphod runs with the suggestion to use his fame to break Q, because if anything is bigger than Marvin's brain, it's Zaphod's ego. He's just lucky there were no Scottish grannies in Q, because fame or not, if there were, they would have made his life a nightmare. Long story.
Do you have any stories that aren't?
Sadly, no.
They do make it in front, but of course Vogon bureaucracy is the same as Earth's DMV, so they end up spending time filling in forms. This scene wasn't at all in the book or such, and it's just rescuing the damsel in distress, but it would fit in since it comments on something petty on Earth and turns the rescuing the damsel in distress trope on its head. However, this is, let's face it, padding. It literally doesn't have anything to do with their quest for deep thought.
As much as I enjoyed them taking the whole mindless bureaucracy thing and running with it, you're right. It wraps up the pointless diversions as not enough of a justification in itself for a bit, no matter how good the bit might be.
Why? Why would this movie need padding? Did they not read the book? Did they not even look at it? I used that thing to weight pattern pieces while sewing!
To be fair, this book really didn't have a plot, so they probably thought this padding would be good enough to make a typical 3-act structure. They could have sat down and figured out how to make their own additions to the plot seem less pointless, but still.
Meanwhile, we're cutting between the guys being bounced back and forth getting the right forms filled out the right way, and the Vogons executing Trillian for kidnapping Zaphod in the previous pointless diversion. And the Vice President is enjoying the idea of seeing Trillian get killed so that she can have Zaphod all to herself way too much. She could not be more clingy if she was the overly attached girlfriend singing Call Me Maybe.
And we all know why she's like this, or why she's been created. To be Zaphod's fallback girlfriend once Trillian dumps him for Arthur, so we won't feel so bad that they're no longer together. I know, she wasn't one of Adam's ideas, so that is truly her only purpose.
Also, why would Zaphod need a vice president? Like it's been said, the galactic president is only around to be a distraction. What does the galactic vice president do? Stand around and look more competent than the president?
Twitter hadn't been invented yet. He can only look so incompetent to the world.
True. You've been awfully quiet, Toby. What do you think? Huh. Who had the DMV scene in the pool when Toby falls asleep?
Ooh, me, I did.
Damn it! My money was on the poetry scene.
Shame on all of you! Gambling on a man's sanity!
Or you're just saying that since you're the sucker who thought Toby would make it to the end credits.
Solitary solenoid, terminally paranoid Marvin. Nothing left to be enjoyed, every diode rheumatoid Marvin. Life, don't talk to me about life.